Howdy readers, I'm Jason. This is Chapter and Verse, and this is a slightly different Ramble with the Yarn video. We are going to be just chatting briefly about some mammoths, since March of the Mammoths is starting in just a couple of days, a readathon that I am hosting with Lukas from Totally Pretentious and Alex from bigalbooks. It's a month-long readathon in which the objective is for everybody to read one or more, I'll be reading one, but one or more books that is 800 pages or longer. So that's what the mammoths are. And today, as I crochet, I wanted to just talk with you about one mammoth that I have read in the past and wholeheartedly recommend, and then two other mammoths, neither of which I've read. Hello, Blue. We've got a kitty cat in here, keeping us company. But the other two mammoths are ones that I have not read, but just wanted to kind of share a few things about them with you, in case you have yet to decide what your mammoth is going to be. So the first book I want to talk about is Bleak House by Charles Dickens. As some of you know, Bleak House took the top spot on my version of my original tag, the BookTube Top 10s tag. I think Bleak House is the greatest novel I've ever read. In fact, nothing else, I don't think, even really comes close. Bleak House clocks in at just under 1,000 pages in this Penguin edition. Yeah, it's a kind of chandelier, really, of plotting and characterization and absolutely beautiful writing. It's ornate, it's elaborate, it's precisely structured. Oh, here we go. In talking about Bleak House, I wanted to make an analogy, and that is with this film. So this is Russian Ark, directed by Alexander Sokurov. And Russian Ark, again, for those of you who don't know, is a movie that is about 90 minutes long, and it was filmed in a single shot. It was filmed in one take. And the first time I watched Russian Ark, I found myself, God, probably an hour into it, I was starting to kind of hold my breath for stretches, because I just wasn't sure that they could do it. I mean, how could they pull this off, right? And I was just imagining them filming it and how tense the cast and crew must be as they kind of reach that final act, knowing that if something goes wrong, they have to restage everything, re-choreograph everything, and start from the very beginning. And while you're reading Bleak House, you feel something similar, right? Charles Dickens has so many balls in the air with this book, and he's attempting so many different things, and the book is just, I mean, my God, it just breathes ambition. As you get closer and closer to the end, you find yourself thinking, how on earth is he going to sustain this to the end? How is he going to tie everything up in ways that feel satisfying and don't feel forced? And he just does. He does somehow. It's kind of a miracle of a book, really. So that's Bleak House, Charles Dickens. And the second one I wanted to mention to you guys is this here. This is Shadow Country by Peter Matthiessen. Okay, this is a new rendering of the Watson legend. Shadow Country won the National Book Award for fiction. And what made that unusual is the fact that this is a reworking of a trilogy of novels that he published, I think in the 90s. And the first of those novels was Killing Mr. Watson. The second was Lost Man's River. And the third was called Bone by Bone. He took it upon himself to revise all three novels from the first sentence on into a single cohesive work of fiction. And so he spent years reworking these three books of his into a single volume. And I think he shed 400, 500 pages along the way just tightened everything up, made it leaner. From what I understand, I mean, he literally went sentence by sentence through the manuscript and tweaked and changed and cut and et cetera, et cetera. And the volume that resulted, it's about 900 pages long, and it's widely considered to be his magnum opus. So I haven't read it yet. I haven't read the original 3 books yet either, but he is one of my favorite writers. So if you are looking for a mammoth still, would be intrigued by a legend about a notorious man around the turn of the 20th century in the Florida Everglades, then Shadow Country is a book you should be looking at. And the last one, which I'm kind of embarrassed to admit that I haven't read, is Anna Karenina by Tolstoy. This needs no introduction. This volume of it was actually given to me by Kelly as a gift when I graduated college with my bachelor's, and I still have yet to read it, which again I'm slightly ashamed to say. But I've seen the film, right? The Joe Wright film starring Keira Knightley and Matthew McFadden and Jude Law. I absolutely love that movie. This would be a good one for anybody to read for that reason alone, so that they could watch the film kind of in tandem with it. Anna Karenina has kind of loomed large over the last 10 years or so in mine and Kelly's life. For the reason that this was the book that our really dear friend Vernon was halfway through when he died. He had pancreatic cancer, and he died in early 2011. And Kelly read this a few years later in honor of Vernon. She read the translation that he had been reading. She may have even read the same volume that he'd been reading with his bookmark in it. I can't remember. But thinking about Vernon having not finished this always reminds me of one of my favorite parts from Hilary Mantel's Wolf Hall. And that is a scene in the book. So one of Thomas Cromwell's daughters has died. He comes out of the room. He says, "She was already learning Greek." "Of course," Mercy says. "She was a wonderful child, and your true daughter." She leans against his shoulder and cries. She says, "She was clever and good, and in her way, you know, she was beautiful." His thought had been, she was learning Greek. Perhaps she knows it now. And I'm so moved by that passage, by this idea of a young woman who has set upon a course of learning and who dies unexpectedly. And this notion, this possibility of her being in heaven and just simply having all of that knowledge now. And when I think about Vernon dying halfway through Anna Karenina, yeah, I like to think of him having gotten the rest of the story from Tolstoy's mouth himself in heaven, whatever heaven is. So anyway, Anna Karenina would be another good mammoth to consider. Wolf Hall, unfortunately, is not quite a mammoth. Yeah, it's just under 700 pages long, so it doesn't qualify. But one were to take Wolf Hall and its sequel together, that would be more than a mammoth. So yeah, that would qualify, in my view anyway. Let me know in the comments below, if you haven't yet already, if you're planning to participate, and if you've been kind of waffling on what you're going to choose as your mammoth the last few weeks. If you've settled on one, or if any of these look really good to you, let me know that as well. This is going to be fun, I think. I think this is going to be a lot of fun, and it looks like it's going to have a whole lot of people participating, which is nice. People with channels and people without channels. So be on the lookout tomorrow night for my video on Mike Nichols' adaptation of Wit for my Mortality project. In the meantime, adios.